if you can put, I'm just hitting the record so because I know some people want to grab this in my mastermind group. Yes, so yeah, if you guys can get your cameras on as well, it's good to keep it nice and interactive, and it will go. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Miguel on, and Miguel, I guess the first question to jump straight into, and maybe after your quick introduction, so why we don't feel worthy to attract the relationships that we really want in life, you know, what's actually going on there? Why do we not feel that we're good enough to attract them?
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Good to be here. Hello to everybody, to 100 participants all over the world. Thanks for showing up. Okay, so yeah, worthiness. Why don't we feel worthy? I guess this first thing that we need to sort of bear in mind is that we're living in a very strange world, in a very strange society. And often I equate this society to a bit like a lunatic asylum. And so, you know, the first factor that we have to consider is that we are born into a lunatic asylum. We're born into a society that is now clear, you know, needs to make massive changes. It's not sustainable for us to continue living this way. And so we're born into this place where we arrive with all these conflicting information and ideas and guidance and so on that basically instructs us that we're not good enough as we are, so that we will become healthy consumers, so that we will help perpetuate the, you know, the system and consumerism and capitalism and so on. So if you think that you get born into this society that you know, the predominant message is you are not enough and you need a new watch, or you need a new house, or a new partner, or a different job, or a different nose, or something, that, you know, the message is you are not good enough as you are. And then if we add on to that the fact that our parents have been born into a similar world, into the same world, maybe, you know, a little bit before, but the result of their time in the world and their upbringing means that they are carrying trauma. Everybody on the planet is carrying trauma to some degree, because we are living in a way that is not in alignment with the truth of who we are. Truth of who we are is that we are essentially love embodied, but the system and the world that we have been born into tells us different. So we don't, essentially the short answer to the question is we don't attract relationships, you know, worthy relationships, beautiful relationships, because unconsciously that is the program, that is the story that is running inside us, that we are not worthy, that we are not good enough as we are. And all the traumas and all the experiences that we receive at school or through our parenting, you know, etc., all those experiences communicate to us that you're not good enough. In my story, my mother died when I was very young, and then my foster mother, who was looking after me for a little while, gave me back to my father when he married again. And then when my stepmom had her own child, we were sort of pushed away. So I interpreted that as a young boy and as a baby, there must be something wrong with me. I'm the child and they are all the grown-ups, and society is full of grown-ups. So they must have it right, and it must be me that's got it wrong. So all the challenging experiences that we have, all those things that teach us that we are not beautiful and you know, divine beings just as we are, all that communication leads us to the conclusion, there's something wrong with me. I am not good enough as I am. I am not worthy of love, etc., etc. And so we attract those relationships that will confirm that will evidence that information that I am not good enough.
Yeah, Miguel, that kind of led on to my second question, which so thanks for sharing all of that, which is why we keep attracting the same problems in relationships. So, you know, if we leave a certain partner and then that partner comes back, and I could even use this as a personal example as well, whether it's in dating, sometimes you can just get really frustrated. It's like, how come I'm attracting this type of partner to me? This is not what I want. Why are my friends irritating me with these certain things? Why do I sort of push people away and then look to find new friends, and then I start finding the same kind of friends again?
I mean, in response to that, Chris, I mean, basically, it's because we don't understand relationships. Our society teaches us a load of lies and a load of rubbish about relationship. The general mainstream narrative is that the purpose of relationship is company, is to be with somebody, and a successful relationship is one that you can keep going as long as possible. The longevity is seen, how long have you been together? It doesn't matter whether you've been happy or not. It's just, how long have you been together? Oh, 30 years. Oh, that's amazing. The other person hasn't told you that the last 20 years have been hell, but it's still expected that, just because it's lasted a long time, it's a good relationship. My understanding of relationships through my journey is that the primary purpose of relationships is healing and growth. When we are born like as if we have two, complete blank piece of paper. And if you think of the piece of paper drawn down, a line down the middle, you have the feminine aspects of yourself and the masculine aspects of yourself, which can also be called the yin aspects and yang aspects. They're not gender specific. So the masculine aspects of ourself we inherit from our father, or the masculine energy, the masculine people, role models in our lives as we're growing up. And the feminine aspects of our personality we inherit and we develop and we absorb from the female people in our lives. So if our parents are carrying distortions and trauma in their own masculine, feminine templates, we will inherit those. We will inherit all those distortions. And the purpose of relationship is to iron out those distortions and make them, the other person will reflect to you through mirroring the issues that you are still carrying, and those aspects of yourself that are not pure or healthy masculine and feminine qualities. It means that, there'll be lots of shadow masculine and distortions, masculine and feminine qualities that you're carrying. So your partner is your guide to ironing that out so that you can improve the relationship with yourself. And your relationship with yourself will determine all the relationships you have with other people.
Thanks well, Miguel. So we'll gradually come on to more of the solutions of how we can move past. But for now, Miguel, just delving a bit deeper. Okay, why did many relations, why do they not fulfill us? So I've always found, like with family, the relationships could be that, that they don't quite understand me, that they're not meeting my needs, or work colleagues, for example, is you struggle to get that kind of, deep connection with them, and then there's your friends, and then there's other things that come up. People are busy, people might have a family, so it kind of feels that all these areas sometimes are difficult. But I think sometimes on the surface, it's like you support the same team, sports team, or you like to go the same places, but there's something that's perhaps missing. You feel different in a way. So why are these relationships not fulfilling us?
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to a similar place, really, and that is that you are not fulfilled in yourself. The external relationships are all mirrors of our relationship with ourselves. So if we are not at peace with ourselves, it doesn't matter what the relationship is externally, eventually we will find ourselves back in the same place, perhaps once the honeymoon period is over. We're not fulfilled by external relationships also, I believe, because of this misunderstanding of relationship. I tend to do things in my life, I call it, but by my own internal compass. I don't take much notice of what the general consensus or what people are doing. I like to, do things through my own experience. Just because it's the norm in my world, it doesn't mean it's necessarily right or it's the best way of doing things. So, for example, with my family, yeah, there are members of my family that don't. I'm not quite sure. How long
Sorry,
was
Miguel, I muted you by accident. I did.
I've been muted for the last 20 minutes.
No, just then.
Okay.
No, the last thing you said was that there are people in your family that don't quite understand you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Michelle.
No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, they don't really get me, and I don't get them. So with those members of my family, I just have a very minimal relationship. It's amicable. I check in now and again with my couple of brothers that I have that kind of relationship with. But I don't believe that just because it's family that that we have to have this awesome relationship. It's like we're born from the same parents, and my understanding of that is that we're born into a certain family because that family will have the lessons and the experiences that we need for the evolution of our souls. But just because it's family doesn't mean that we have to have a wonderful relationship with them. Just because it's our neighbors, it doesn't mean we have to have a wonderful relationship. I've actually cut my father out of my life for 1.5 years because there was a lot of issues, family issues that were coming up, and I didn't like the way that it was being addressed. And so I said, look, I need to, I need to draw back from this situation, and I'm not going to be responding to emails or being in touch for a while because I need to do this work inside me, because I could see that there was issues, there was work I needed to do on my masculine template, on the relationship with the masculine within me, and that it wasn't something I could sort out with my father because he's on a completely different trip and having a completely different story in his life. So it's important to pick and choose, the relationships, and not just expect that every relationship has to be really valuable and really sweet and beautiful for us. I mean, there's stories in the Buddhist texts where they talk about, when Buddha going on pilgrimage and taking a load of disciples, and one of the disciples being this guy who just pissed everybody off all the time, and he was so antagonistic and so challenging. And the rest of the group sort of said, oh, Buddha, can we leave him behind? We want to have a nice time, we want this journey, this pilgrimage to be harmonious and beneficial. And to what the Buddha replied was, no, he's definitely coming because he presses your buttons and he shows you the areas where you need to grow and where you need to learn to be more at peace with yourself. So we have to be realistic about relationships. They're not all going to be sweet. The nature of relationship is ups and downs. And I would rephrase it slightly, instead of the problems in relationships, I would call them challenges or opportunities.
Great, thanks for that, Miguel. Yeah, different way of looking at things as well as you change the way you look at things in relationships. Everything else changes, and yeah, the lessons this is teaching you about yourself, which I found a good one. So yeah, I was going to the sort of final question before we break into this quick exercise from everyone is, why are we quite needy in relationships, or we meet this partner who we just think is too good for us, or we don't feel quite good enough. I mean, I can where this comes into my life is it's the kind of people I'd love to be in my life are saying that they're too busy, or they just have this, you kind of feel like they're better than you. So we become quite needy. We don't quite deserve them, and then we settle for less.
Yeah, I mean, it can, relationships can go all sorts of different ways, can't they? Chris, will you just say the last bit of that again, please?
I was going to say I can't remember because I paraphrased a bit on my question. But yeah, why we don't feel good enough to attract the relationships that we want, and why the neediness comes out.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this desire in relationship like this, and then we're here and we're holding on to, it's like, we don't want this, we want this, and then everything coming back to us is that we can't have it because the person's like too busy, the attractive partner is like, you know, you're not my type, I'm better than you, giving off that kind of vibe, at least in your own mind. That's how you see it.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, the neediness, again, that's kind of encouraged in a way. You know, the sort of Hollywood version of romance and sort of like, you know, the sort of ideal relationship is really just a sort of fancy form of codependency. You know, it's this idea that the other person will complete me. And, you know, and so if we're going to be coming from relationship from that place, there's going to be a neediness. There's going to be, you know, the truth is that everything that we need is inside us, but the world teaches us that everything we need is outside of us. That if something isn't right, we need to change things on the outside. Whereas my experience is when I change things on the inside, everything on the outside is just fine. That nothing out there needs changing as long as I keep changing myself. So we're encouraged into codependency, and we're encouraged into neediness, and this idea that we will find the right person and they will complete me, rather than two complete people coming together and, you know, and being, that's when the magic happens. That's when the, you know, that the whole is worth more than the sum of the parts. When two whole people to come together, then magic happens and all sorts of spiritual laws start moving and so on. But when we're coming from a place of neediness, then, you know, we're not really in alignment with the truth of the natural laws. We're not looking inside ourselves to sort the relationship and bring unification of the fragmented parts of ourselves back together. We're too busy looking on the outside. And having said that, I will kind of contradict myself a little bit and say that neediness is okay. Neediness to a certain point is healthy because it connects us with other human beings. We are not supposed to be totally, you know, independent and not need other beings. We are tribe animals. We are community beings. We need others around us to be healthy. And to a large extent, the quality of our relationships with others will determine our quality of relationship with life and you know, and how good a life we're having. So there's this, you know, crazy thing that neediness is massively exaggerated and overinflated, and it's encouraged. But at the same time, the animal aspect of us, it's okay to ask for help, but as long as it's in a balanced way and it's not this kind of, oh, I'm just trying to grab everything from this person and I'm not actually filling my own cup at the same time as well.
Thanks for that, Miguel. Everyone's sending questions in, which is great, guys. I do have some questions which we're working from. Some people's questions I might bring in as well because they're very interesting, and we'll get onto them. One quick one, a very quick one as well, Miguel, which I thought would be interesting to share, was about needs. And I always like what you say about this, that it's okay to have needs. Like, let's say we're around friends and we're like, look, they don't understand my needs, and then they don't open up and they feel bad about having needs or wanting things from people. And then you've talked about neediness, which is maybe that people are just, they need to say like, look, I feel like you know, and I always need you around, you know, is that okay? Rather than it kind of leaks out in their behavior, rather than they can just be honest. And people think if they're honest, that people will be scared and run away.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, we're taught to be independent. We're taught that there's something less, that we're less than if we have needs, if we ask other people for help or support, especially men. You know, it's a really big thing for men. You know, big boys don't cry and we don't do emotions and we're just strong and sorted all the time. And that's just so damaging and so destructive. So it's okay to ask for needs. It's important to ask to have your needs met. I mean, part of that is honoring yourself enough to actually say, to ask. And many of us that were brought up by, you know, in dysfunctional families, if we asked to have our needs met, you know, I used to get punished. I would be smacked, or, you know, it was like learned very quickly, as many of us did, that you don't ask for you to get your needs met. You're just kind of happy with what you get. And so it becomes quite a deep self-love practice to just practice asking to have your needs met if you're not used to that. You know, on the other end of the spectrum, there might be somebody that's really needy and is just really clingy and isn't taking any responsibility for their issues internally, and they're just expecting, you know, everybody outside to fix them, and they're super needy. But that's super needy when you can see that they're not doing their work, then that's all out of balance. You know, everything is about balance. You know, you have something in the right dose and it's medicine. You have something in the wrong dose and it's poisonous. And it's the same with neediness and codependency and all that sort of stuff in relationship. There's an element of it that is natural, but there's an element of it that, you know, that can illuminate and sort of highlight that there are some severe deficiencies and some severe inner work that needs doing to solidify, to bring together the inner union within that person.
Yeah, definitely. Miguel, just before we break for the sex, because there's been some good questions, people are sort of commenting, agreeing with a lot of the things that have been said and understanding. I think there was just one question just come, so just to acknowledge some of the questions as they're coming in and make sure people are on the right guide, on the right direction, right path. And someone's put about, so we won't, you know, until we're 100% whole, we won't be able to attract the healthy relationships we want. And I thought my answer would be that that's not the case. It's no. In this present moment right now. Yeah, because people think I need to have therapy for a few years or give me.
Then it might never happen.
The way I see it is that the relationship is what I call relationship is the highest form of yoga. It's the most powerful way of self-realization, of understanding yourself if you go into relationship from a conscious perspective, so that you are learning about yourself in the relationship. It's not a case of you know, you have to get yourself all sorted and then, you know, and then jump into a relationship, because my experience is that you can't actually totally iron out and become, you know, the best version of yourself without the reflection of other beings sort of showing you where there are areas for improvement and where there are things that you need to tweak. So what tends to happen rather magically is that we attract people into our lives that are vibrating at the same frequency as us. So for the most part, you will attract somebody into your life that has information, that has keys, that has lessons to help you come home to yourself and cement and solidify your own inner relationship. And you hold information and keys and energy and codes that can help the other person to build their relationship with themselves. What usually happens is, as soon as we get in relationship, we're just focused on the other person. And is this person making me happy? And all those kind of like crazy statements. We can only make ourselves happy. We can only be at peace with ourselves. The external surroundings and the people that we're with will obviously have an impact on that. But fundamentally, by far the biggest factor is our relationship with ourselves. So as we keep working on ourselves, we will keep attracting people who are less dysfunctional in their own relationships and in their own relationship with themselves. Sometimes it's a case of you do a load of work on yourself and then you find yourself in relationship, and that's almost like it's like the practical assessment part of the assignment. It's like, okay, well, I think I've done a load of work. Let's see what happens in the relationship, because that will evidence what is resolved and healed within you, and will also highlight the work that you still need to do. It's hard to talk about this in general stuff. It's so much easier, you know, when I'm working one-to-one with my clients doing my Sacred Union mentoring, and, you know, and they're bringing their individual issues and so on, and I can show them and illustrate what's actually going on, what the learning is, what the gift, what the opportunity is in the relationship, you know, that they're having, or the relationship that's falling apart, or the relationship that they would like to have.
Brilliant, Miguel. One thing to add as well, I think what I experienced with you is it's important to finally speak to someone who is just willing to listen to you and accept you and understand you. And that's just, we go around every day and people just want to talk about themselves and their own issues. And it's hard to find someone who can really relate to what you're going. So I think that's good that I'm getting someone like yourself.
And we sometimes we put too much expectation on relationship. We expect our partner to be our therapist, our lover, our confidant, our expert at this, that, and it's unrealistic. We have too much expectations. This kind of nuclear family where it's just like two people and the children. Because of the breakdown of community. When there was community, there were more people. There were uncles and aunties and other people to give reflections and guide and so on. It's just got sort of more and more sort of like, constrained until we expect our partner to meet all of our needs often. And again, that's, in my experience, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, thanks for that, Miguel. So yeah, we will come on to the question now. The only final thing I was going to add, just from myself, and I think Miguel covered this, but I'm sure you'll agree that, as we're growing, that, it's okay like that our family don't get us, or our friends maybe don't understand, because we're growing, and then other people aren't growing. So it's sometimes inevitable that if you're growing, that people aren't going to go in the same direction. Or I've seen relationships end because their partner is, addicted to all these different things and they're not interested in personal growth. And then that relationship is just really difficult to sustain. So if you're growing and you notice people around you aren't particularly growing, that's a good sign that, you are just looking for other relationships, or whether you can have a relationship with them and just accept them and where they're going, which is all fine. All right, so the exercise that I want you guys to do, just to write down. So we've got 3 questions, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to have some shares from some people, and then if you want to share, like after you got the questions, just click, I think there's a raise the hand thing. And then if you can be as concise as possible, obviously, if there's anything you really feel like you want to share, but bearing in mind there's 100 people, so it'd be good to hear from a few of you. So the questions are, what do we not like currently about the relationships? What are the problems that we are experiencing? So just being clear of, we've been talking about this so far. So what Miguel has been sharing, what are the things that we're actually experiencing that we don't like, that we want to put behind us, that we're getting sick of or frustrated. So the problems with our relationships, or why you're not, I think someone was sharing in the comments as well, not attracting unavailable people, or people who are in relationships, or becoming attracted to people who are in relationships, or attracted to people who don't want them, which I can relate to as well in dating and things like that. So problems. And then the second part question, or just to keep thinking about that, is what do you want in your relationships? What do you want from people in your relationships, your family members, working with work colleagues, the friends, the kind of people you want in a partner, if you're already with someone, or what you're looking for in a partner. What exactly is it that you want? And someone also shared, which I found interesting, get Miguel's comments on this after, is just how we seem to be so focused on the problems with relationships rather than just like, hold on, what do I actually want? And we'll talk about that in the second half. Instead of thinking, okay, what do I actually want? What kind of people do I want to meet? We're thinking, oh, I'm just attracted. And we always seem to focus more on the negative. So what do we want for the second part? And then the third question is, what is stopping you right now? Right now, what is stopping you from achieving those relationships, or having the courage to set boundaries with people, or to get out there more, and to go on dates, or to go to more events where you're going to meet people, as difficult as that is right now. But even turning up to an event like this, you're more likely to meet someone like-minded. What's sort of stopping you from having those relationships you want? Or perhaps ending certain relationships as well. Some relationships which don't. We sometimes hold on to people who are maybe holding us back, and we still are scared to perhaps to be ourselves around them, or to make decisions where we see them less. All right, so the 3 questions again. So the first one was, what do we not like about our relationships right now? Problems in the relationships. What do we want in relationships? What are we looking for? And then the third thing is, what is stopping us from getting those relationships, which might relate to the problems at the same time. So anybody want to share? If you want to raise your hand.
I do.
Okay, Michelle. Michelle, you were one of the only few people who weren't unmuted.
I'm chopping at the bit.
Okay, Michelle, okay. Well, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, to make my story very short, I was married for nearly 30 years and got out of the marriage when I realized it was literally killing me. So about a year after my divorce, I began another relationship that just recently ended, that was 4 years long. And the situation that I'm currently experiencing is what I want in a partner. I don't even know if it's even attainable, because I'm a very upfront and very direct and honest person. And the majority of the people that I'm meeting are not. They're looking for their own benefit, and they're trying to manipulate and lie and get into your life that way. And now moving forward and trying to find a healthy relationship, I don't know how to trust myself, because I always have the philosophy in life that I'm going to trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you. But now I'm noticing that maybe I have to change the way I think about it. And I'm not going to trust you until you give me a reason to trust you. And I'm finding that very, very difficult. So what I want in a relationship is true transparency and honesty, because I feel that when people are lying to you and manipulating you, they're taking away your choice to choose, because you don't know what they're telling you is true or not. And thirdly, stopping myself, because I, at this point, don't trust myself in making and finding the right partner. It's really deep.
The deeper the better, I guess, Miguel.
I agree with a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, trust does become it increasingly becomes a tricky one, because the more relationships that you've had, that haven't gone how we would like them to be, then, it's like we become a little bit more wary almost each time, would be the natural, the natural flow if we're not trusting. But there's something about, I mean, I totally agree that, trust needs to be earned. And, there's maybe something going on around boundaries that, I think it is kind of like reasonably realistic to just accept people and let them more and more into our inner circle as we feel, that they have earned that. And so I think it's important to just, let people in a little bit, whether we have a date or, or we're seeing them a little bit, we let them in as much as possible, as much as we feel comfortable with the information that we have, and and with the situation that we have. And if there's if the time arises where they abuse your trust, then I guess the first thing is you have a conversation about that, and say that how important it is. But if the trust keeps getting not respected, then obviously that's somebody that you don't want to be around. And it may be that if that keeps coming up for you, that there may be some lesson around boundaries. It may be that these different men that are coming into your life, I'm assuming they're men, coming into your life, then they're teaching you about boundaries, not to open the doors too soon, and just to be, open the door a little bit. And if everything's sweet and everything going smoothly, then you can let them in a little bit more. But yeah, trust is something that's earned, and it's always worth looking at, how it's like you said, you've kind of got to this point where you struggle to trust yourself a little bit, and that can become challenging. But it's just about taking it one little step at a time, Michelle. Don't let too much in too soon. There's something about your boundaries, I feel, that is involved in this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle. And yeah, it's great to have an example, and hopefully, I'm sure everyone's learning, and people could definitely relate. People are dropping comments. So I'm going to go through some more, and I'm going to go in order if people have raised their hands. So I can see Vineet, Dennis, and David have raised their hands. So Vineet, we'll come on to you. Yeah, what came up for you in those questions that you wanted to share?
Hey, I think I have posted also on the chat group, like many times it happens. I met someone and they totally believe on the vibes, even if it is being the first meeting. So can you clarify, like, is it the right thing to decide like that, or is it something like I missed it to hit it on this target, like something I missed it from my side, or it's the correct way to go on the vibes, checking on the vibes, even if it is the first meet? I'm not sure. That's what my question is.
I'd struggled with the sound quality a little bit there, Vineet. I couldn't really make out the question, I'm afraid. Chris, I don't know if you did any better than me.
Yeah, no, likewise, Vineet. Yeah, I think there was some background noise made from someone else. Mate, what was your question again, Vineet?
Okay, can you go with the chat one? I have posted on the chat also. If you can clarify with the chat.
Was it about the vibes, was it?
Yeah, is it the correct way, or is it something from my end it is not going good, or the girl decided the correct way, that in the first meet you need to, they check on the vibes and they didn't find the vibe, something like that. That's what they are saying, like that.
Okay, yeah, Miguel. So yeah, it's put about people believe in vibes, even if they're their first meet, when they first meet someone. Is that correct way to proceed? He's put just about, I guess, just picking up on people's. Yeah.
It's an interesting, that one, and I think the vibes or the energy that you feel, they talk about how you meet somebody and this instantly you kind of like resonate with them, or you don't resonate. Now that will be, it can be informed by all sorts of accurate pieces of information. It might be the vibe, you're getting a clear vibe, a sort of feeling about this person, and that may be really accurate. But what tends to happen is that the mind also jumps in and brings its own stories, and from different experiences, and and comparisons and so on. So the feeling that you get is of value, but it's important to know that a lot of feelings arise from thoughts. What often happens is we have a thought, and that generates a feeling, an emotion in the body. We think, oh, I'm going to have some ice cream, and we feel good inside because there's something good coming. We think, oh, I've got to go and tell my girlfriend that the relationship's over, and we feel terrible because of the thought that we've had. So it's important to honor the feelings that you're having, but don't, not 100%, because they may be being informed by old ideas and old stories and old beliefs that you have that you're not even aware of. So take into consideration the vibe and the feeling, but then, but you can't just go with that. It's about the evidence. It's about gradually getting to know somebody and seeing how things are going. Is the vibe growing, or is the vibe getting less? Because sometimes, specifically for men, I don't know about for women, but the vibe can be massively affected by by what she looks like. Is she looking really beautiful? Is she showing a lot of skin? Those programs run very deeply in men, and we might think, oh, it's a really good vibe because she looks really, really cute. But actually there's loads more going on that we should be taking into consideration, but we're just kind of like, we're just receiving the information based on how cute she looks. So it's a bit of both, is what I'm saying. It takes discernment and practice.
Okay, thanks for that, Vinny. So we're going to move on. Yeah, maybe a couple more before we get into the next round of questions I've got from Miguel and how we can start applying some of this stuff. So Dennis, I think you were the next one with your hand up.
Okay, thank you for recognizing me. I would like to say, sort of address the three questions that were asked by starting out with the second one. That what I'm looking for, especially at this time in my life, is really companionship. I'm looking for, not so much romance or a torrid sexual, physical relationship, things like that. I'm looking for both sexes, for male and female, mainly for companionship, good friends to have, go out to dinner with, have good conversations, very important, have good conversations. I need relationships in which I can bounce things off of other people, speak confidentially about things, both personal and political, things like that. And I'm very frustrated, now getting to the first question, and that I feel like I'm just not meeting the right people. I try as much as I can to get into into situations that would afford me the opportunity to meet other people, and then I'll meet these other people. Like I'm a member of several meetup groups. I like going hiking, biking, kayaking, things like that. So I'll join these groups to engage in these activities and meet these people. And, as a group, we have fun, do things together, but then I don't really recognize, I don't identify anyone in these groups that I really want to develop a really close one-on-one personal relationship and do all these other things I was talking about to begin with. And I don't feel, as far as the third question goes, that there's anything that's holding me up in doing that, because I'm trying, I'm really trying to make use of the opportunities that are available out there. I've even joined some of these internet sites to meet people, and it just is very frustrating, because I feel that the people that are attracted to me, who want to start a relationship, I don't find them personally attractive or interesting enough. I don't feel the connection, the chemistry. And then those that I do feel that I feel this attraction or chemistry with, they don't have any interest in me, or I wouldn't say any interest, but they don't have the same interest in doing that with me. So I don't know. I think I have a very good image of myself. It's not like I have a problem with how I feel about myself. I've always felt that I'm my own best friend, which is why I've managed to survive most of my life doing things without a companion. Because I have such wide and varied interests: going to the opera, hiking, backpacking, things like that, scuba diving. And I just know there are a lot of people who don't share that same interest or wide range of interest, and so I end up having to do these things by myself. But I'm okay with that. But it only works to a certain extent. I would like to go to an opera with someone else to be able to enjoy that experience with them. And I constantly am not finding people who I can do that with, who shares the same passion or interest or chemistry. So.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's hard to to be able to answer too accurately, but there was something that you said which my ears pricked up to, which I think is quite a clue to what's going on for you, is that for most of your life, you've been your own best friend, and you've been doing, your companionship with yourself.
Yeah.
So there must be a reason why that arose in you. There is a story, there is a belief that is running in you, that is something around. It is safer, or it is better to be with myself, that it may be around that other people aren't to be totally trusted, and it will have its roots in your childhood. I don't know what the relationship was like between your mother and father, but that may be playing out partly here. But somewhere it sounds like you internalized that it is safer, it is better to be your own best friend. So there's something about fear or trusting other people. And that story is still running inside you. So you are still giving out that vibe of it's better to be by myself. So although now in your conscious mind, there has been a shift, as we know, the conscious mind is like the little bit of the iceberg that's above the surface. The unconscious mind is the massive part of the iceberg that's underneath the surface. So in that, although your conscious mind is now saying, I'd like a partner, in your conscious mind, my guess would be from that little that you've shared, the story is still running. It's not safe to connect deeply with other humans. It's better to just do it by yourself. It's a safer, better bet. So that I would say that that's pretty key in what's going on in the mix there, Dennis. And I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dennis. I can definitely relate to a lot of what you're saying when it's just like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm going to that, and I just can't seem to find the right people. And definitely what Miguel's saying in the book too, as well. But definitely stick at it, and there's definitely no harm going after what you want. So mindful of time, guys. I know David and Nawal, you have got your hands up, and I will come back to you guys. Don't think I forgot you. But I think it'd be, at this point, I'm just getting this feel that it's good to keep rolling on with some of the questions I've got from Miguel. Just in case it drags out a bit too long. But once we come to the end, in about 20-25 minutes, we'll come back to you guys, and then you can do your shares and ask questions. And we'll also allow time a bit longer for any other questions anyone's got, because I keep getting emails with questions. I've added a couple to the list, and send me privately if there's anything will be important to ask during the way this plans out. So coming on to the next ones is, how do we start to obtain the right relationships, Miguel? So if people have sort of said what they want, what some of the practical steps people can start taking now that, they've realized, look, I don't want this in relationships. This is what I want now. And I want to do something that actively brings me closer to those relationships that I want.
Okay, so a really big sort of general broad question. So I'm going to answer it with a big general broad brushstroke, which is morning practice. Establish yourselves a morning practice. So what I mean by that is that when you start the day in a way that honors yourself. When I start the day with some breath work. I start the day with some alkalizing drinks. I do my hot and cold showers. I do a little bit of Tai Chi. I do my juicing, and and I just start the day. I like to clear the place and have it all sorted. All those things communicate to me that I love and honor myself. If I didn't love and honor myself, I couldn't give myself that time and that consciousness and that presence each morning to say, I'm going to value myself, that the relationship with myself comes first. So my email address is love in action, because I believe that love is an action. So when we do things that communicate that we love and honor ourselves, it helps to delete that story that is running inside us, that we are not worthy and that we are not good enough. We can say, oh, I love myself and so on. But if you've been abused or you've had a dysfunctional start to life, and we all have to varying degrees, because our parents all had a dysfunctional life, because we're living in a dysfunctional planet that is very far away from our optimum state of being. So the morning practice is the most powerful thing that you can do, because it starts building a deeper relationship with yourself. When you love and honor yourself deeply, you will just start attracting people into your lives that also love and honor themselves, and that can respect you and love you in a way that you need to be loved. So it's probably not the response that people would expect, but that was the first thing that I would recommend for everybody to do. Start the day in a way that communicates self-love, self-care, self-honoring. That's really powerful medicine.
Great, Miguel. I'm sure that's something people will definitely take away. And I think it is, once you start to focus more on yourself, and then the relationships seem to flow, and then the neediness stops, because you're not like, oh, I need to go out and meet this person and go out and meet the person. And it's normally when you're looking for those people, they don't appear, do they?
No, that's it. When you're looking too hard, you're looking outside, and life's saying, no, you're looking in the wrong place. You know, there's a beautiful saying that I adopted that was, if, you know, that our parents didn't love us in the ways that we needed to be loved when we were little, because they were teaching us to access that love for ourselves, to find the love within ourselves. It's often those people that have had such a lack of love in their early years that go through incredible heroes' journeys and powerful initiations and really tough lives that actually, you know, awaken, and because they've been looking for love outside, you know, and it's not there. So they're forced to look inside. And when you look inside, that's when you begin to access that divine love and that love of self, and that love that is so much bigger and more all-encompassing than this narrow sort of story that we have running of kind of like Hollywood love and romance, which, as I've said before, mostly is inaccurate and unhelpful.
Yeah, definitely, Miguel. I mean, I might jump some of the questions here to one that I think will lead on from that is, you know, why do relationships come and go? Why is it that sometimes it's like the pressure to, like you said, to meet someone, oh, we've got to stay together for this long, and
yeah,
if it's divorce, it's we've completely failed and it's the end of the world. And you know, because you could be this person who wants to really grow, and then you just maybe been pressured to meet someone, and then you realize this isn't the relationship we want. And,
yeah,
so in a way, like, why? Because I look at my life as well, and I think on this self-development journey of the last 8 or 9 years, and lots has changed in my life. But the most thing that's changed is the people. Like, people have just come and gone, and one day some people around you just don't seem to fulfill you as much as they once did, and you realize you're looking for something deeper, more meaningful. So
yeah,
it's just a story of life.
yeah. People come and go. People, you know, that is life. Life is change. People are supposed to come and go. We're not supposed to just have, you know, latch onto a couple of people, and, you know, that's not rich, that's not learning, that's not growth, that's not movement, that's not change. And that's what life is. If we look at nature, if you have a stagnant pond with no change, it all gets mucky and not very pleasant. You know, we want our lives to be a flowing river, and that is that people will come and people will go, that there is change. I see, you know, as I mentioned, the longevity of a relationship doesn't measure success for me. What I measure the success of a relationship by, how much did we learn? How much did we grow in the time that we were together? How much did we honor ourselves? How much did we learn about ourselves in that relating? Those are the true purposes of relationship. And companionship and great sex and all the other things can be part of that. But we have to put the horse before the cart. And so it's okay for relationships to come and go. You know, we're programmed, we're conditioned to believe that if a relationship ends, we've failed, we've done something wrong. But that's not necessarily the truth. I've had, you know, probably quite a few relationships in my time. But what I see is that each relationship has brought me a little bit closer to home within myself, to being more at peace with myself, to understanding myself more. And so every relationship, although they were all really painful to end, because for me, the end of every relationship with a woman just re-traumatized, re-triggered the death of my mother. So every relationship with a woman wasn't just like, oh, that's sad that she's gone. It brought up all this childhood stuff of my mother dying and all those emotions that I wasn't able to process at the time when that happened. So now, but what's happened for me now is that trauma journey is done. I'm free from that. And so now in my relating, there isn't that neediness anymore, and there isn't that desperateness, and there isn't that obsession and kind of anxiety, to the point where I'm still getting used to relating to women from a completely different place, from a place that isn't needy and so on. But when we do separate, it's like, you know, you go with my blessing. We've just decided that it's not working anymore. There are too many challenges for us to work with, or, you know, the negatives outweigh the positives. Then let's just go our separate ways and say thank you to each other for what we've learned and the growth and the experiences that we've shared. Then we spend time with ourselves, and we see how we're doing, and we lick our wounds, and we address some of the issues perhaps that came up in the relationship. And then when the time is right, we will meet somebody else that will have information, codes, missing pieces of the jigsaw that will help us return it to ourselves, to a harmonious and whole and healthy relationship with ourselves. So relationships, in the paradigm that we're living at the moment, it's unrealistic to expect them to last forever. We're just setting ourselves up to fail. And we're setting ourselves up to fail to think that if it ends, that something's wrong, or, I failed, or I'm less than. We learn from each other. And when it's time, we say goodbye and we say thank you, and we move on with our journey. We have thousands of years of trauma that has been generationally passed down. It's not realistic to be able to clear all that trauma in one relationship.
Thanks, Miguel. Yeah, so obviously some people have had some comments to that, and I think what I wanted to emphasize as well, as I'm sure you will, that this is sometimes just part of the journey, isn't it? That we're growing. For a lot of people, they might be in a village somewhere with a family, perfectly happy. But for us, if you're like me and you move to a city, you feel something's not quite right, then you're just meeting loads of people and they're coming and going in the city, and it's letting go, really, isn't it? And I like to think that with my life, I will just end up in some village somewhere with a cool group of people and a family, but the point is we don't know, and for some people that does work, but for everyone, I guess, on this call, just it's like being honest with ourselves. What is life showing to us? And I think the follow-up question I was going to say was about boundaries, because I sometimes thought, I'll just cut this person loose. And what's actually probably missing is just setting boundaries and saying to friends, like, these are my needs. This is what's acceptable. This is not. Because sometimes I think it's always a conversation in our head, isn't it? Like I say to people now when they say, this person probably thinks this, or this person's that. And I'm like, well, if you spoke to that person, do they think that? And then when you tell them and say, look, it bothers me that you're late all the time, can you be earlier? And they might be like, sure, I didn't know it even bothered you. And the fear you had is that person would say, like, shut up, I'm not going to do what you want. So how important is it, Miguel? Do you think like this is the missing ingredient in a way, boundaries? I mean, could this solve many relationship problems by just having, if you avoid boundaries completely, is that's what's leading to many of the problems that people face, would you say?
Yeah, the boundaries is, it's this balance, isn't it? Because if you're just cutting it loose and it's like there's some challenges in the relationship, so it's like, all right, that's done, I don't want anything to do with it, then it may be that that's the right thing to do. But it may be that that person is just bringing some challenges that you need to talk about, and that you need to explore, and that would be helpful, and that in the dialogue and the honest communication about the vulnerability and so on of those challenges, that something is healed and something is cleared. Boundaries are really important, but it's, boundaries can become totally controlling if they're not used in the right way. But it's essentially about honoring yourself, isn't it? It's about saying this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. I mean, if you're finding that you're needing to have conversations around boundaries all the time, then maybe it's not, it's not the right person. But maybe they're just there teaching you about boundaries. Maybe that's something that you're rubbish at. So you will attract somebody into your life that wants to trample all over your boundaries, so that you can practice asserting your boundaries and speaking your truth. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be the person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with, but maybe they're the person that will teach you about boundaries. And so then when you go into your next relationship, that's one issue that you won't have to address. It's really, it's not black and white, but be aware of your boundaries. What are you okay with and what are you not okay with? And, and how are you with boundaries? Do you respect other people's boundaries? Because if other people aren't respecting your boundaries, then there's pretty definitely, worthy checking out that somewhere you're not honoring boundaries as well.
Yeah, Miguel, just to add, you with boundaries with yourself as well, this one thing that I learned a lot from you was just, the integrity with yourself. Let's use the example of, okay, if you're not taking action and doing the things that you say you're going to do, what's likely is the people you will attract will be all in the same boat, struggle taking action. Like when I first started this group, how I struggled with it, and then everyone else came with the same issue. So it's important to be in integrity with yourself when people are like, maybe they could go into work a bit later and get away with it. The difference between that and to be integrity of like, no, I'm just going to turn up on time anyway and to work on time because this is the person I am. And when you're out of integrity, things suffer, right? Relationships suffer, you suffer.
Yeah, and a few people I've just seen just in the comments, a few people writing saying, I honor other people's boundaries, but I'm no good, with my own. So that's about low self-esteem and low self-worth, that we value ourselves. When we value ourselves, we assert our boundaries. When we don't value ourselves, we don't care. Let people trample all over us or do whatever they want. But when you're asserting boundaries, you are communicating your worth to yourself and that you value yourself. And that in turn is part of the journey of improving your own self-worth, so that you then attract people into your life who are also resonating at a frequency of a higher self-esteem and a higher self-love and self-respect.
Thanks, Miguel. Yeah, coming on to the last couple of questions before I guess we open up for more questions. I've just put the importance of fulfilling relationships, healthy relationships. What sort of role do they play in lives, in life, and how this impacts us on how happy we feel. And so just to give people they're in a bit of a hole at the moment. If we do get to the point where we are attracting these, how they make us feel on a day-to-day basis, what we're likely to do as well. Are we supposed we live more a life we're doing the things that we love to do, we're making the kind of money we want, all these different things as well.
Yeah, I mean, relationship, I said it earlier, for me, relationship is pretty much the most important thing. Our quality of relationships with ourselves and others will determine our quality of life. And note that I said it in that way, the quality of relationship with ourself is the first thing, the most important thing. So, it's the most important thing to invest in. But again, our society teaches us that that's selfish, that we should put everybody else first and, and take care of everybody else. And that means in that we're communicating, I'm at the back of the queue. Everybody else is more important to me. So, of course, we're going to connect with human beings that are going to reflect that story back to us. You believe that you are at the back of the queue and you're not important. You will attract those people into your lives that validate that and that evidence that give you that feedback. Yeah, that's who you are. So the relationship with yourself is everything. It is everything, because the outside world, it's maybe a bit woo-woo for some people, but I'll say it anyway. The outside world is just a reflection of your inner landscape. Everything is an inside job. You change the inside and the outside will change. You change the outside first and it's like you keep having to adjust it and mend it, because it's just like sticking a plaster over or just shuffling things around. You'll always have to recompensate at some point.
Thanks, Miguel. Yeah, Sharon's just said a workshop on boundaries. In the last 3 months, we've had about 3 workshops on boundaries and about 4 speakers speak on boundaries. The last 4 or 5 months, maybe. So it's always been a popular topic. And like in my mastermind group, in the coaching work, the stuff I always say to people, Miguel, maybe good to get your thoughts on this, is the second there's that feeling of this person has trampled on my boundaries, I could assert myself here. It's important in that present moment to take that door where you do something, you say something, even if you feel really nervous or anxious.
Yeah.
Because the more you keep saying, no, next time, no, next time, no, next time, you're just stopping you're allowing your relationships not to grow. You're each time you're missing that, like, as a car trying to turn onto the, you could just be missing, letting the car go past, you don't get anywhere. So it's courage though, Miguel, isn't it? These things in relationships to have. I'm sure, like, just one thing to add as well about difficult conversations that we need to have as well.
Yeah, you have to speak your truth. You have to learn to speak your truth, and often that's something that we're not very good at. And I always say, you speak your truth regardless of how the other person responds, because when you speak your truth and state your needs, then you are honoring yourself. It doesn't matter how the other person responds. Hopefully they will respond in an honoring way and go, yeah, I get that, and thank you for sharing, and I'll do it differently. But when you speak your truth, it doesn't matter too much how they respond. What matters most is that you've said it. Even if your voice is shaking, even if your knees are knocking together. Another one of my catchphrases is that small positive steps consistently taken result in massive changes. So every time you get the opportunity to speak your truth, practice it, and it will get a little bit easier every time. It will get easier and easier. I'm 53 years old now. I was in the gutter at one stage. I was an alcoholic. I was homeless. I got myself in a terrible mess, and and I was just like, I just didn't know whether I was coming or going. The only things that have changed for me have been the result of small steps consistently taken, and this journey to coming back to myself, learning to love myself, learning to be at peace with myself. So yes, speak your truth, be courageous, and just do these little things consistently result in massive changes. Don't underestimate. People think they need a magic wand or some fancy tool or technique or something. Just do the things that scare you, break them down into little pieces, and just do them a little bit to start with, and gradually build up your courage. That's how we grow. That's how we change. We have to action. We have to step towards the things that scare us, because in the scariest places, that's where our greatest treasure lies. The places where we most fear to go, that is where there are missing pieces of ourselves.
Thanks for that, Miguel. I think that was a great point to sort of end on in terms of this series of questions. And obviously with the group, get out your comfort zone. This is what it's about. And everyone's come here today. That has to be the element of stepping out of your comfort zone. And we can't really hold your hand in this instance. It's just you're faced in a difficult situation, phone call with a parent or work colleague or whatever it is, that you allow yourself to assert yourself. And people I know who've been doing this in boundaries over the last few months have been emailing me like, oh my God, my life has changed. So to definitely look to make that step, get books on boundaries, educate yourself. It's an important topic. So we'll do about 10 minutes for questions. So first of all, I've got a question for a couple of people who asked. Do raise your hand if you want to, but we will hear from David in a while. If you can, David, do you want to share first? Because I think you had your hand up first. What did you want to share from those questions, or if you also had a question for Miguel?
Yeah, so I'll turn myself mute. Yeah, so thanks for this. Yeah, I think my response to the questions was like, what I don't like about relationships is that when there's problems, it kind of feels things are going to kick off at any moment, and that I'm on eggshells, and you're always trying to diffuse situations. And yeah, it's kind of like you're expected to behave a certain way at all times, and yeah, it's just not very nice, really. What I want in a relationship is just someone I can just hang around with. I don't have to worry about what they're thinking, if anything's going to kick off, and they take their frustrations out on me, and it gets to like a shouting match. And just someone who allows me to pursue my own hobbies, and we can support each other doing that way. I think the thing that's scaring me is that, well, what's stopping me is that I'm worried it's just going to be repeating behaviours. It's going to be the same as the last one, and that they're going to be disappointed in the person that I am. So that's like my response to those questions. But I did say in the chat a bit earlier is that for some bizarre reason, I'm the one who tends to go for women who are unavailable for numerous reasons, and I can't quite work that out. I mean, even though I know they're in relationships, you obviously can't help being attracted to them. But like when they start flirting with you as well, you think, oh, I'm not entirely sure what I'm meant to be doing. So I don't know how you respond to that.
Yeah. So if a woman is flirting with me that's already in a relationship, then, you know, I would nip that in the bud pretty quickly, because that woman is, if I'm flirting with her and stuff, and, you know, it depends whether it's just very mild and it's harmless, but you know, you're dishonoring your a brother. If there is, just because the man isn't there, if she's with another bloke, then I wouldn't want my woman, you know, I wouldn't be like to be on the end of that, knowing that my woman was flirting with some other bloke, so I wouldn't want to flirt with her. So that's a case of honor and integrity, is that if she's unavailable, then, you know, then I don't go there, I don't engage, you know, on that level. But if you're attracting unavailable women, then that will be something to do with your childhood. And it may be that your mother was unavailable to you, that emotionally, you know, we have a lot of parents who are physically, well, sometimes they're not physically around, but they're physically around, but emotionally, psychologically, they're unavailable. They're sort of physically present, but they weren't really there because of own anxiety or stress or issues. I work with a lot of people that come from that place. And so what happens then is that, you know, you believe that that's the sort of, that's how relationships are. That's been modeled on some level by your parenting, whether it's you and your relationship with your mother, or what you saw between your mother and father, or, you know, something around that, which I would need to do a bit more detective work, you know, to get it accurately. But if you're attracting unavailable women, there's an aspect of you that is scared of commitment and going really deep into a relationship. So it's like, oh, I just want to dip my toe in the water and just have a little play, but, you know, but I don't want anything more than that. So yeah, you know, hopefully there's a few little responses to some of the points that you raised there, David.
Thanks for the question, David. I can definitely relate to that. I've just put a note there for our next talk next week, and that person has helped me personally with the same problem which I encountered of unavailable women and or unavailable partners, and she talks a lot about that. So that will be good if everyone can come again next week. You know, like I said, everyone always comes and goes, oh, the speakers again, great every week, you know. So, you know, do keep this going. I'm sure everyone's been messaging about how great Miguel's been for this event, but we just have loads of great people on these events. Noel, yeah, let's hear from you, and then we'll probably have time for a couple more or so. If you want to share.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for what you said before. In my case, I haven't dated men until I am 28, which was last year. So I had 2 relationships. It was very short, like 3 months each. And each time I get in the relationship, I get a lot of overwhelmed with emotions, a lot of thinkings about. I mean, the man gets like the center of my universe, so he's in my head every time. So which is not. I mean, I feel a lot of like I'm not in peace because of the emotions. And each time the man get like after 2 months or 3, he takes some distance from me. So it happened twice, and after that I get very sad from the relationship because of the distance. So I don't know why it's repeating, like it's happened twice. So what I want in a relationship is being with like a partner to grow together, to have the trust, the love, and feeling just normal, and not being overwhelmed with all those emotions and stress, because there is a lot of stress about if the other is going to be unfaithful, or if he's going to stay, and something like that. I get stressed about if the relationship is going to stay longer. So this is my case. If I have some, what do you think about it? And thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth saying that the 2-3 month period is generally where, you know, the honeymoon period comes to an end. You know, what they call the honeymoon period, and then stuff starts coming up. emotions start coming up, you'll start triggering things, and that's when the work begins in relationship. You know, that is the yoga, the highest form of yoga. That is the purpose of relationship. But what happens is if that stuff starts coming up and you see it as a problem, then you will kind of avoid it and sort of like, yeah, I don't want this. But actually that is bringing that stuff up, because that is getting in the way. Those emotions are in the way of you and a deeper relationship with yourself and life. So whatever is coming up will be related to your parenting and the childhood that you experience. And the partner, what happens is that they trigger, you know, it's like they take the lid off bottles where we've stored old emotions and old trauma. The relationship takes the lid off it. So it's like, as you know, as a black and white example, in my relationships, what often happened was that the woman would leave, and that would trigger the death of my mother. So in the triggering of that, my job was to be able to separate and go, that emotion that I'm feeling is connected to when I was a child, and I am purging and clearing that and feeling that now. It's being able to discern by what is present and what is related to the relationship that I'm having in the present, and what is being drawn up to be healed from my initial relationships, you know, which is fundamentally with our parents and our carers. So don't see it as a problem when that stuff comes up. Get curious about it, you know, and it's very normal and very natural to feel. It happened to me for a long time of feeling like, yeah, the relationship became all consuming, and I would lose myself in the relationship. And I'm like, how do I fit in, and how do I make myself fit so that this relationship works? But that never worked because I was dishonoring myself. The message was that I had to just come back to just being more and more myself and being more at peace with myself. But you know, while you have some work to do around your wounded child, you know, your mother wounds and father wounds are active. And it sounds like, you know, if the stuff's coming up, then it's starting to it's wanting your attention. When we feel these emotions, it's our being saying this needs addressing. That's what emotions are. They're an internal guidance system. When things feel beautiful, it's life saying, yeah, all of that, as long as it's sustainable. There's exceptions like eating chocolate ice cream. If you just keep eating chocolate ice cream, it's not going to feel good. But generally, if you feel good about something, then life is saying, yes, have more of this. If you feel really dark about something, then it's like, okay, you know, there's a message here. There's something under this. There's something going on. I need to sort of decipher the code and work out what's going on. I mean, you know, because I've done this in my own journey, and I do this with clients day in and day out. I get very adept at spotting and being able to identify what I call shine the light of consciousness on where the root of the issue is. Once you've seen it and understand it, then you can begin to dissolve it and start doing things differently, so that you delete the distortions in your masculine, feminine template, and you start replacing them with healthier aspects of who you choose to be.
Great. Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noel, for your sharing. So final couple of quick questions. I'm going to ask these just to make sure I've also put Miguel's website in his email, and I guess he can talk about him at the end after these couple of questions a bit more about how you can contact him and some of his work you can look into, and his books, obviously, which you can read, which I have. So Miguel, there you go, bring him home, the twin flame story. Couple of quick questions. I have to ask you this one, Miguel, and everyone's probably dying to get your thoughts on it. I've just got it emailed it so many times. Is what do you think about online dating and also the problems? So I was chatting with someone before in one of my groups, and was just sharing about I was on these, you know, speed dating of like or these apps, but on these like these Zoom things where you get put in a room with someone for 8 minutes. And the other person was watching a baseball game or something like that, or the other person turns the camera off, and you know, it seems like there's lots of problems people are finding. But what are your sort of thoughts on why? Because many people who come to this group get frustrated. Maybe the people on this group who've successfully met someone through one of these apps and stuff, which is great, and it's always good to hear about this sort of stuff. But what do you think the problem is at the moment, Miguel, particularly with everyone sort of sat at home looking at a screen, trying to find love or trying to find great relationships? Why does that not quite?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, on some level, you're looking in the wrong place if you're looking at the screen. Look inside yourself first. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with life, and then everything will reflect that. But you know, I mean, I've done some online dating and stuff, and my guidance would be is to bring it to a real meeting as quickly as possible. Whenever there's a lot of people who do online dating, they're just playing, they're very scared of relating, and they just want this kind of distant thing and a little bit of connection, but not too much. They just want to play it safe and keep it safe. And if you want a real relationship, then my thing was always, okay, well, if there's a connection, then you know, we exchange a few messages or whatever, and there seems to be a bit of a connection, there's a physical attraction or whatever, then I always used to say, you know, can I have your phone number? Let's have a conversation, or let's have a video call. Let's bring it to a real, as much of a real life meeting as possible, as quickly as possible, because then you get to know whether it's just time wasters or whether how it's going to feel and how it isn't going to feel. And if possible, bring it to a face-to-face meeting, meet up, because, you know, in a bar, in a cafe, or wherever, you know, obviously somewhere safe, but you can tell so much, you know, from 30 seconds with a person, you will know more about them than 6 months of sending messages or emails to each other. So if you're serious about relationship, bring it into real life as much as possible, and you know, and recognize that a lot of people that are online dating are doing that because they're scared. It's kind of like they want some connection, and they think they would really like connection, but it's like, whoa, it's a little bit scary. And you know, we've all been bitten and had painful experiences in the past and so on. So
Quick question. How much time should you really give someone if you've met them online before saying, well, if we're not going to go to the next level and actually meet one another, just cut them off? I mean, how much time should you give someone before meeting them to see if they're really serious or not?
yeah, it's a good question, Michelle, and I think the answer is a little bit of a, you know, a piece. How long is the piece of string? You know, if it feels, if you've been really clear and you've made it clear that you'd like to meet, and they're, you know, sort of making excuses or whatever, then pretty quickly you're going to be able to, okay, this person's just messing about and they don't really want to. You know, don't be, you know, sort of like keep knocking at a door that isn't opening. If you knock a couple of times and it doesn't open, then move on. You know, right. There are 8 billion people on the planet. There are all sorts of, you know, there are lots of different people that we can connect with that there will be gifts and, you know, and information and insights and experiences to share. So I wouldn't be too, personally, I'm quite ruthless. I used to be quite ruthless about that because I just can't be bothered. I'm not an online person. I'm a you know, real life person. I want real life meetings and real life relationships.
I agree.
It gets a bit, yeah. There's so much that can be hidden, you know, online. You meet somebody and your energy fields come into the same energy field. You will tell straight away whether you want to meet them again or whether that's it. And you just save a lot of time messing about, you know, typing to people on computers.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Cool, guys. I'm very mindful of time. Super quick question, because I got this early on from Janie, was so the final one. She said, what's the difference between challenges and patterns?
What's the difference between what?
Challenges and patterns, or do you need a bit more context?
Oh, okay.
Challenges and patterns. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess challenges normally is something that's maybe coming from outside us. You know, the other person is being challenging or the situation is challenging. I mean, patterns are definitely things that are just recurring, you know, that keep happening. The same sort of thing keeps happening. And if that keeps happening, then it's like life is trying to get your attention and say, there is something here. You need to check this out. do some detective work, explore, why is this happening? What is life trying to tell you? Because life always wants us to be the optimum version of ourselves. So every relationship that we have is the potential to come closer to that optimum version of ourselves and to dissolve a little more of the trauma that we've inherited. So, just keep moving forward, as best you can, addressing challenges as they arise, but be aware of patterns that, if there are patterns, things that keep recurring, then it's definitely something that needs addressing. The odd challenge that's just out here, then maybe that's, it's not trying to get your attention so much. But challenges are an opportunity to grow as well. It's not to see a challenge as something to be avoided. A challenge means that, when I overcome it, I will feel better about myself because I've overcome something that was challenging. So yeah, the challenges aren't to be avoided, but yeah, they're both in the same sort of field, patterns and challenges. But I think the key thing is just get curious about them and just get interested about them.
Hi, I think maybe I wasn't being clear. The question is really, when you are in a relationship and there's the opportunity to learn something from it, and that's the challenge. But if you meet another person that presents the same challenge, it becomes a pattern. Okay. So I guess my question was really about, how do you distinguish and what is the source of that?
Yeah. So if the same pattern it keeps happening, then you're not getting the message that life is trying to give you. You're not decoding the information. There's a gift in there. If it keeps happening, there's something that you're not quite getting.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Yeah, so guys, we do need to wrap up, but we just listened to Miguel because I'm sure if you guys want to hear more from him or work with him or do a session with Miguel, which I highly encourage. We had last time people I know just reached out to Miguel, did one session with him and just learned a lot about themselves. So I really recommend. So Miguel, we'll hear from you shortly. I've just put a link to your website, your email. Next meetup, guys, is going to be next Sunday. It's going to be breaking codependency with Tatanka, which is going to be great. Feedback form I put there to add. So Miguel, I guess as a final thing, how can I put your website, your email, and I think you said to reach out on Facebook as well. I think you're quite active on Facebook. Is there anything else that you want to sort of put onto the group, how you can help them going forward?
No, I don't think so. If you go to the website, migueldean.net, under the work with Miguel, there's a Sacred Union mentoring tab. That is the one-to-ones. Sacred Union being balancing the masculine and feminine within the hearts of the clients that I work with. So if you go to that page, you'll find more information there, and there's a calendar to schedule an initial consultation, and and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of free resources on the website as well, interviews and podcasts and blogs and different stuff like that. So do feel free to check it out, and yeah, add me on Facebook. Miguel Dean's Sacred Masculine is probably the best place to find me on Facebook. But yeah, any questions or
I just put a link to your Facebook, Miguel. Just found it, so.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions?
I was looking for it.
Yeah, so I don't think there's many Miguel Sacred Masculines out there, but
no,
definitely find you. So guys, it's been great. Thanks for sticking with you. I do my best to stick to time, so we'll be mindful of that next time. And do bring your questions next time. It's going to be an awesome session. I think we're going to maybe go a bit deeper down the rabbit hole with codependency as well, and that particular area. So that'll be great. Miguel, thanks very much. It's been awesome. So chatting to people all over the world tonight, which has been amazing. And thank you guys. And feedback form is there as well. If you could copy that and fill it out, I just really mean a lot. But yeah, guys, thanks a lot. And yeah, we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, wherever you are.
Bye-bye.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Verabschieden sich alle und winken und sagen Tschüss oder bis zum nächsten Mal. Ich nicht, mich hat keiner gesehen. Aber die Katze und der Hund haben nicht gewunken.
Okay, I think someone's on the phone. All right, guys. Take care.